Hi everyone, thanks for coming out this evening. I'm going to try and be fairly to the point. I want to show 4 works today. One is a large-scale print and 3 films. So I'm going to be showing the devotional wallpaper. Crop over, On a Row, and Fiona You. So, just to talk a bit about the devotional wallpaper, it comes out of a decade-long project that started out as a one-off commission in Liverpool through FACT, the Foundation for Art and Creative Technology, in their collaborations programme for an artist to make an artwork with a group in Liverpool. I was partnered with Liverpool Black Sisters, and I wanted them to sing songs and identify Black British female singers that we would then go on to research. On the very first session with the women, it became apparent that we were all finding it very difficult to remember the names of performers we'd grown up with. And so after the very first session, in the next week, the following week, participants had asked family members and friends and work colleagues the same question about naming performers. And so they came back to the group, and this kind of began, this is how kind of devotional began. Now this was meant to be a kind of 6-month commission, and at the end of that 6 months we've kind of gathered about 46 names. Since then, people have continued to give me names over the last decade, and these are people, you know, in the general public. Often I don't solicit the names; people just find out about the project and they'll send me an email, or if I'm doing a presentation, people will give me another name. And people have also started to give me testimonies and musical items like records and cassettes, news clippings, etc. And so this now forms all of these items now form what's called the devotional collection. In 2007, I was invited by assistant curator Eddie Otchier to make an installation of devotional at the National Portrait Gallery, where I drew 180 names directly on the walls of the gallery to accompany 18 photographic portraits that the museum held in their collection. And I decided that, I mean, it was a very physical activity trying to draw all of these names, and I decided that in order for this work, if this work was going to continue or move around, that I needed a much more portable solution, and so I decided that I was going to make a wallpaper of which these names, and this is basically what you're seeing here constitutes the devotional wallpaper, where I've drawn the names of 200 performers. Some are singers, mainly they're in the music industry. All of them, their careers were started here in the UK, even if they came from different parts of the world. And basically the wallpaper now is I initially did it as a photo silkscreen print, but it's now a digital print, and it measures 2 meters high by about 5 meters wide, and it has 200 names. And as I said, the names really have been given to me. You know, there's many of the names that I didn't really know before this project, and it's not really a project that I necessarily insisted on carrying on with. It's a project that's kind of pushed me rather than me pushing it. And as I said, people continue to send me material to such an extent that actually it kind of took over the house, and I had to move all of the collection. It's now at Wimbledon, where I'm continuing to work on it and work with it. So where are we with this? What page am I on? Oh, we should say, by the way, that if you have any questions or any comments, or you don't feel that that you have to wait to the end. If there are questions you might have, or do feel welcome to kind of join in the conversation that Marcus and I are going to be having. One of the things about the collection and the roll call of names is that it really does kind of date everybody. You know, there are moments when people say, actually I think I recognise that, or I remember that person, or so on and so forth, and then it goes off into a group of people that you don't know at all, or not familiar with. Okay, so that's that's the devotional wallpaper. Now I have 3 films I'd like to show you. 2 of the films draw on folk characters and folk festivals and play with the conventions of documentary film without explaining very much. Both films are about history, or 2 of the films, sorry, that I'm going to show, are about history in the present, spectacular bodies and popular culture and public space. The first film, Crop Over, begins in England at Harewood House, a stately home in Leeds. The Lascelles family, who own Harewood House, made their money from slavery and sugar plantations in the Caribbean, in particular owning over 50% of the plantations in Barbados. And Crop Over is actually a Barbados festival. So Crop Over was originally a festival that happened at the end of the 9-month sugarcane season. When the last of the cane was cut, there would be a big party called Crop Over. This party would not only signal the end of the crop, but also the beginning of 3 months of poverty and hardships for the itinerant slaves. So the film, as you will see, there are a number of folk characters that are in the film, and there are 2 cultural historians that comment on not only these folk characters but also commonplace rituals that have diverse history spanning Britain and Africa and possibly beyond. The second film I want to show is called Honoro and was made in a small town called Constance in southern Germany. Again, it's a folk festival which is called Fashnacht, which is a pre-Lenten carnival that dates back to medieval times but remains a popular festivity. I was invited to make a film about Fashnacht after a curator saw Crop Over and recognised that a few of the folk characters in Barbados bear a similarity to some folk characters in Fashnacht. The title Honoro is the welcoming cheer that everyone says to each other during the carnival. Okay, so the third and final film that I'm going to show is called For You Only You. And it's a project that took place in Oxford University in 2007, where I was invited to work with a music professor, David Skinner, who was the director of an early music Renaissance choir. And in this project, I kind of wanted to bring in an element of contemporary sound, and I invited sound artist Mikhail Karikis to join the project. However, there were some tensions because the classical world of Renaissance music seeks beauty, purity and perfection of sound, whilst the type of sound Mikhail produces comes out of an early modernist tradition of noise in the shape of dada, which is looking for dissonance and disjuncture. So there was this kind of tension, you could say, between these 2 very different traditions of making noise or making music or making sound. In composing this new collaboration, Mikhail, on the suggestion of David Skinner, took a choral piece by Flemish composer Jos Gambers-Bray and then tore it up. He then refashioned it by introducing elements of jazz scat, a 13 beats to the bar Balkan beat, and his own vocal techniques of guttural resonances of the body. The 3 films that I'm showing today have been made in collaboration with an artist and filmmaker, David Bickerstaff, and I'm really happy to know that David and his wife Rosie are here today, so I'm expecting him to jump in at some point in the conversation. Okay, I'm going to just show these 3 films, one straight after the other, and if you have any questions, as I said before, please feel free to ask.